Hello and welcome to The Working Songwriter, the show where today's best songwriters come to talk shop. I'm your host, Joe Pug. Each episode here, we host a distinguished guest, and we ask them to go deep on their inspiration, on their process, on the general ups and downs of making a life in music. So, whether you're a grizzled veteran, wondering why your 1995 Parker Fly guitar has not appreciated in price as other vintage guitars have, or else a scrappy upstart saving up thousands of dollars to buy a vintage guitar that was actually just a budget model from Sears 50 years ago. This is your show, because ultimately it is what every writer seeks most, an ironclad excuse to put off actually writing. Hey guys, it is the last Friday of February 2020. I'm glad that you're here. Today's show is brought to you by Bandzoogle. Built by musicians and for musicians, Bandzoogle is an all-in-one platform to build a beautiful website for your music. I'm old enough to remember when you had to pay somebody called a web developer to get a website made on this janky platform called GeoCities. And the web developer would be a man named Anders who drove his parents' hand-me-down Volvo, but he had put a Slipknot bumper sticker on it. And old Anders would charge you about $1,000 for a GeoCities website that he built, and it would be obsolete in 6 months. It was a nightmare. I'm telling you, if you're younger and you don't remember this time, us old-timers, we had a hard go of it, but you don't now. This is the future. We have nice things in the future. We have Bandzoogle. Bandzoogle powers the websites of tens of thousands of musicians around the world, from weekend warriors to Grammy winners. You get hosting and a custom domain name, dozens of fully customizable design templates, social media integrations, plus a really cool new crowdfunding feature, which allows you to crowdfund your next project commission-free. The Working Songwriter podcast listeners can go to bandzoogle.com to try it for free for 30 days. Just use the promo code TWS to get 15% off the first year of any subscription. Thank you, Bandzoogle. If you're out there and you'd like to hear some of my music live, here's where I'll be. March 7th, I'll be at the 930 Club in D.C. with my band to play a show with the Little Smokies, and then I head out west. April 1st, I'll be in Denver. April 3rd, I'll be in Boulder, Colorado. The 4th in Fort Collins, Colorado. The 5th in Santa Fe, New Mexico. The 8th, April 8th, at Oklahoma City. April 9th in Houston. The 10th in Dallas. And finally, Saturday, April 11th in Austin. Finally, if you enjoy this podcast, if you'd like to help it remain a viable endeavor for me, something that you could do to help out is go support the show over at Patreon. Patreon is a platform where you're able to subscribe with a voluntary subscription fee to support endeavors that you find meaningful, that you love. So you just head over to Patreon, Patreon, search for my name or search for The Working Songwriter, and then sign up, the cost of a cup of coffee every month to kick in and help me keep the show running. And if you don't have any money to kick in, I get that. That's all good. The other things that would help out, you could tell a friend about the show, let them know what's going on here, spread the word, or you could write a review for us in iTunes, which helps big time. And the simple math on those two things is that they will help me much more than they will be a pain in the ass for you. So thanks for doing all that. I'll end the harassment there. Last month I was on the road. I was lucky enough to play a concert at Levon Helm's barn, and one of the people there at that concert was a songwriter named Erin Rae, and we were staying at the same terrible Howard Johnson in Saugerties, New York, and we sat down the morning after the show to hear about her journey so far. Originally from Jackson, Tennessee, our guest this month, Erin Rae, fortuitously moved to Nashville as a teenager with her family. It would prove to be a move that helped set her on a path that she's still on today. That is, traveling the world, playing her songs, and recording albums that other songwriters admire. She's toured with Jason Isbell, Father John Misty, and the Wood Brothers, among many others. She's performed on NPR Tiny Desk Concert Series, and she records for Single Lock Records, the label of Grammy Award winner and former podcast guest John Paul White. NPR said of her latest album, quote, "This album will bewitch and enlighten the nation." American Songwriter had to say about her, "Rae exudes a natural sweet huskiness in her voice that falls somewhere between Patsy Cline and Amy Mann." And Rolling Stone said, "With a voice that swoons and soothes, Erin Rae makes smooth-edged music for Sunday afternoons. Her arrangements, anchored by pedal steel guitar and the steady strum of an acoustic guitar, may be rooted in modern-day indie folk, but the songs themselves rustle up comparisons to Joni Mitchell and Jackson Browne, two like-minded singers whose music packs a punch without breaking a sweat. That's high praise." We had a few minutes to sit down on a recent tour to talk about Erin's journey so far, and I'm so grateful she gave our show the time. Well, speaking of hotels and everything, look, you had a really busy year on the road last year.
Yeah.
You're touring quite a bit. Where'd you go?
Where did I go last year? Well, this time last year I was up here with His Golden Messenger, just doing a run of solo shows. He played solo and I played solo, and so we rode in the van together. And
right on.
And then what went on from there? Did some shows with Andrew Combs.
Do you prefer touring solo or with the band? Does it make a difference to you?
I like doing both. I miss the band. Like, I'm always sad when it's done. Like, a run is done. Yeah. I'm like, oh, I love you guys. But it is nice, especially kind of this time of like in the end of the record cycle or whatever. It's like time to make new things. So it's good for me to like get comfy in my solo zone and like try some things out. And
yeah, are you able to write on the road?
No, not really.
Yeah.
I mean, I always kind of like will come up with little snippets and stuff, but really, I don't know, especially like traveling with people. Oh, excuse me. I don't know. I enjoy the hang too much, I think, to like, I don't know. I don't want to limit myself by saying, no, I don't write on the road, but I think it's better for me to do it at home.
Yeah. That's always been kind of my vibe, is to write at home and hang on the road. And I'm trying to change that up, though, a little bit, because like when I'm on the road now, and I don't have my kids out here, I'm like, this is my one time when I can actually do it. But, you play a concert like we played last night. We played last night at Levon's Barn with Bonnie Light Horseman and
so
you.
Beautiful.
And it's just like, well, what am I going to do? Leave that hang early to like come back to the hotel room and write? Like, I don't think that's what Levon would have done. Yeah. So.
I know. I'm always like, but when else am I going to hang with this exact group of people, like, in this way? So, yeah.
Yeah, and the answer is like never exactly that group of people, but it will be that some broken fractal of that group of people 18 months from now in Albuquerque, at Meow Wolf or something like that. Or I guess that's in Santa Fe. Yeah. Well, right on. Yeah. And you did a fair bit of touring in the fall. Did you go to Europe for a while?
Yes, we went to Europe.
Had you toured over there before?
I toured in the UK a couple of times, but not mainland Europe.
How'd you like mainland Europe?
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was beautiful. We got to go to Sweden and Norway and the Netherlands and Germany, so many places, and it was great. It was there was a moment every day where I did not have to even like manufacture a feeling of like be like, I'm grateful for this. I'd try to like do that, but like there was moments of just being on stage, like even if we were just sound checking and like oh my gosh, we're in Sweden right now, you know, like this is so cool and these people are so kind, and why is anyone here to begin with,
Yeah, not only in Sweden, but like my songs brought me to Sweden. Would not be here if it weren't on the wings of a song in a way. Yeah. I like touring over there a bit. I think there's starting to be more of an audience over there that understands what we do in this world. But last time I was there, they were still trying to like figure it out. They'd be like, "Yes, this song was good, but can you play me a blues song now?"
Yeah.
Like, well, that's not. It's kind of not what I do, man.
Yeah. Yeah, you're like, I appreciate you think you've seen my versatility as an artist, but yeah.
No, it's fun traveling over there, and it is. You do definitely have some pinch me moments when you're far away from home, and people have shown up, and maybe they know a few of the songs and all that. Where you're like, "What?
That's the craziest part.
What's going on here?" Thank God for the internet.
Yes, truly. Yeah.
So, take me back to when you first moved to Nashville. How old were you when you moved to Nashville?
Well, we moved as a family from Jackson, Tennessee, when I was 11. So I was starting 6th grade.
Oh, so you partly grew up in Nashville a little bit. Okay. What part of town were you guys living in?
We were in Bellevue.
Okay.
Yeah, and so, grew up in Bellevue, going to the mall.
Right on.
And
how aware were you of the musical history in Nashville and all that?
I was, like, peripherally aware. I think my parents played music always growing up. My dad is a songwriter and musician, and he and my mom played together, and they never did it professionally, really, as their job. But they, I don't know. Music was a big part of our.
Did they want to do it professionally?
I don't know. I don't think so. My dad may have, but I actually have never heard him, say anything like that. Like, oh, I wish I would have done this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just kind of, it was like just a part of our, like, after dinner and stuff. I have a lot of memories of them rehearsing for like a weekend show at like, a coffee shop in town or
your folks together.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Or I guess when you're a kid, pretty corny. But cool once you get older.
Yeah. It was cool. Like when Davis Kid Bookstore opened, my dad would always, like, on the weekends, he would play in like the cafe with his friend Willie X in Jackson. And I don't know. My mom, like, apparently the story is that before my parents were married, my dad didn't know that my mom, like, could sing. They both have, like, such great taste in music, and but he didn't know she could sing until she was singing us to sleep, he says.
Oh, all right.
Like, he heard her singing, and then they were like, let's,
Then he drafted her for the
then
band,
he drafted
man.
her. Yeah. But I found a cassette tape of a rehearsal from our kitchen in Jackson where there's some songs of just my dad's and then some of the hits that they played.
Don't lose that.
Yeah.
Digitize that.
Yeah. A friend of mine, Gabe, he like did the transfer thing. So I have it.
Good. Yeah.
Got it on Dropbox.
Got it on the drop. Never going to lose that. Right on. And so you moved, you grew up in West Tennessee. You moved to Nashville. When did music start becoming something not just that your parents did, but that you were interested in?
I think it was like 16 or 17. I like sang all the time, like in the shower and stuff. And like, especially when we were talking about American Idol in the van yesterday, but like the first season of American Idol came out, just like anything where people sang would inspire me so much. And I would, just go off singing and stuff, but really in a mostly very shy way. Like, I didn't really want people to hear me, but I had a friend in high school that was like, you can really sing. You really do have a nice voice. And she was doing like musical theater. So I was like, whoa, she knows. She must know,
Yeah.
So I believed her. And then.
No, but really, I mean, if she was in that world and doing it, she wouldn't just blow smoke, presumably.
Yeah. And we were on the trampoline and we were singing like a Kimberly Locke song or something. But yeah, so after that we were doing chorus and then I started singing with my dad and being like, I want to sing with you. And I knew all the songs that he did, so I just would sing. And
it's got to be the old man's dream right there. I mean, seriously, the 17-year-old daughter's like, Dad, I want to sing with you.
Yeah.
It's great.
yeah, so he got me my first guitar when I graduated high school. It was like my birthday graduation gift. And so then I was doomed. I went to one semester of college and
Where
at Tennessee Tech.
Tennessee? Okay.
And
Then you were out.
And then I was like, I started learning some top 40 country hits on the guitar.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Some Carrie Underwood, some Green Day, not country, but yeah.
But it's top 40.
Yes,
so
but it's top 40, yeah. And then came back after that semester and went to an open mic. My older brother took me to an open mic.
In Nashville?
In Nashville.
Where at?
At Cafe Coco.
Okay.
Where I just stayed for like 2 years after that.
Yeah, man.
Like every Thursday, just like, I hadn't really written a song, but I just was like, I'm going to stay home and pursue music. Very fantastical thinking, you know?
Sure, yeah.
But my parents were supportive.
But there is something about finding, it's very common for people to just find like that open mic, the open mic that suits them. And there's a period of like 1 or 2 years, maybe 18 months, whatever it is, where that really becomes your whole world.
Yeah.
In a really strange way. In a really like, I don't mean to use naive in like a pejorative sense. And I'm talking, I had the exact same experience that you had there. Naive in like the best way possible.
Right.
You know? And
it's a very, like, it feels very magical.
Yes.
And like this, I don't know. Like I always want to be here. You know, it's like, except, you know, you grow out of it or you grow, you know, you start playing like shows at some point.
Yeah, and everyone grows apart. But there is like that moment where like there's a crew of like half a dozen to a dozen people and everyone kind of like knows like the 3 best songs of all the other people.
Yeah.
You know, and it kind of becomes like a hit within the crew.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Where was your place?
It was Lily's in Chicago.
Cool.
Where you could smoke weed upstairs. I'm not a weed smoker, but people did. Yeah. And where the bartender, I don't know how it worked because he would just give everyone free drinks. Like I don't understand how it worked, but yeah, it was a crew like that. And then people start going their different directions. I started playing shows in different places.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how it was for you, but you know, some people in the crew were just like, man, what the fuck? You leave the crew behind? You're not coming back to Thursday nights anymore, you know, whenever it was. But
ours
like,
is Thursday nights.
Yeah, you're like, well, I'm on to, you know, I'm just trying something new, man.
Yeah.
Well, right on. Did you, so were you writing songs at that time or were you just,
yes.
You were, okay.
But barely, like, I decided to stay home and from school, take a year off. And I wrote like one song on it was Super Bowl Sunday. That was like my first song that I wrote. And then we had a family friend that introduced me to her vocal coach, and I started taking guitar lessons. So I was just like, I'll just make, you know, a curriculum for myself. And so it kind of just became like I would write a song, go play it, like each week.
Yes. Know? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great workshop method. It's pretty interesting that you had a pretty kind of structured go at it. Like, all right, well, I'm going to do some vocal lessons here. I'm going to do some guitar lessons. I'm going to write a song every week. Like, you were taking it seriously at that time, for sure.
Yeah, I think it was still very. That was, you know, those things were like once a week, like the lessons and stuff. And I was definitely still in teenager world.
Yeah, but it's definitely still, it's not like teenager telling mom and dad this is what I'm going to do and then just like smoking grass in the basement and playing video games, you know?
Yeah.
That's right on. It's hard to have that sort of structure and ambition at that age, I'd say.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that because I always am like, I was, you know, living at home at that time and like being a very horrible like restaurant worker, you know, like just not, I don't know, just not motivated to excel in that world because I was just like kind of in a daydream a lot of the time about like, you know, just thinking about what I wanted to be doing and.
Oh, totally.
And but yeah, I guess it all is working out just fine.
My day job during that period for me of open mics was at a job site. I was a carpenter's helper, And I used to get in trouble with my boss. I'm buddies with him now.
Yeah.
And he still comes to shows. But he used to get pissed because my job would be cut man, so I'd be cutting while the guys were putting in studs. And he would find on the ends that had been cut off, he would find I'd been like writing like lyrics and stuff on that. And he'd be like, dude, I'm paying you $15 an hour to be here, man. Not to write your bullshit
Your
poetry
musings,
around here. Yeah.
That's amazing.
So were you like waiting tables and stuff?
Yes. I worked, well, in high school, I worked at O'Charlie's, which is like an Applebee's kind of chain.
Oh, yeah.
And then I worked at a place called Bosco's. I was a host there for a little bit. And then my longest job during that time was at Cumberland Heights, which is where my mom worked as a therapist. And I worked at, like, not the front desk where admissions is, but where a lot of the offices are. And so on Sundays, there's visitors, so it's the visitor center. But throughout the week, it was like the mail room was there, and then I answered the phone occasionally.
Gotcha.
But I had my guitar with me, and I was taking lessons, and I would just like play guitar when no one was around. And my boss, for whatever reason, allowed that, which is bizarre.
Thank God for bosses like that.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Yeah.
But and the thing about too, I guess the like treatment center world is like a lot of people either were musicians, were in the music business, like in Nashville. I guess maybe not everywhere, but like in Nashville, there's a lot of like there's some therapists that were musicians, or their parents were like, you know.
Yeah.
So my boss, I found out later, like as she was actually encouraging me to quit, because she was like, you're 21, I think, or 22. And I just was like spending so much time working like a full-time job there. Mm-hmm. And she was just like, you should really go like do it, you know? And I think it was like maybe also a nice way of just being like, you're like not happy here. Yeah. You know, like, and you're not maybe doing a very good job anymore.
So it was 50%, I believe in you and I want more for you, and 50%, you're just playing guitar all the fucking time.
You don't want to do work. But yeah, she went to Belmont and like studied. Her name's Jennifer Crouch, and she still is like so encouraging to me on like Facebook and stuff. Like, I remember when you were like 10 years ago. So.
And so when did it? Okay, so you're at this open mic. You write your first song on Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah,
very specifically. And
I remember finishing it and being like, "This is cool. I finished a song. Like, that's cool."
And I still have time to watch the game.
Yeah.
What was do you remember the first song that you wrote where you were like, "Oh, okay, that's a thing right there"? Did you ever have that feeling? You must have at some point.
I think like the first one, of course, was like, it was cutesy and not like not a great song, but it was fun to play and perform. And my friend that ran the open mic like got a big kick out of it. It was very goofy, but I think it might have been. I wrote a song for my dad called Grown Up Feet. And it's like, you held my hand and we'd cross the street and I'd run to keep up with your big grown up feet. And my friend, our family friend, had like a little home studio, and he was like, let's record that. I love that. Let's record that for a gift for your dad. And but yeah, I don't know. Maybe Crazy Talk is the first song that I like felt really good about. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you play it over and over and over again when you get a good one like that.
Yes. Yeah. Played all of them.
What did your journey out of that open mic scene look like, and more into a regular playing thing? You had a band for a while called Erin Rae and the Meanwhiles? Yeah,
I met all of them at Cafe Coco.
There you go.
Yeah. And like at random times, and then we all became friends for a long time, and yeah, we played. How did it go? So my friend Ben Ewan, and my friend Corey Beckler, we formed a band that we would play at Hotel Indigo, like at a songwriter night. We would play around, but we called it The Means, and we mostly just sang Ben's songs.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ben moved to California to be with his now wife, and we were like, we miss Ben, and we started, but then we started playing my songs, and Graham Beckler and Corey, they weren't married at the time, and now they're married. Yeah, we were like, we'll call it Erin Rae and the Meanwhiles, like, meanwhile, while Ben's gone.
Yeah.
You know, like, and then, but, yeah, so it mostly was just me, like, playing my songs, and then they helped me make my first EP and played on the first full-length record, and
Right on.
yeah.
Yeah. That's an upgrade for Ben to leave, and it's like, well, let's play my songs now.
Yeah. I know. Thanks, Ben. Getting out of my way, man.
That's fantastic. And did you? So when you put that EP out and that record out, did you guys like start touring behind it then, or what? Where'd you go from there? Did you put it out yourself, or did a company?
Yeah.
Okay.
I put it out myself. I put out an EP. Put out an EP, and there's like a house show series called the Alberta House, and my friend Anthony Simpkins was in that scene, and he started a video blog series called Gems on VHS, which kind of helped me connect to other songwriters. I met this guy John Davey, who's an incredible songwriter from West Lafayette, Indiana?
That's a place, yeah.
Like where Purdue is? Or is that Illinois?
I think that's just Lafayette, Indiana, where
Okay.
Purdue is. But maybe there is a West Lafayette part of
I feel like
Lafayette.
it's like a split. But he had been doing a lot of like touring, like solo touring, booking shows for himself, and I like became pals with him and asked to go on a tour. So we did like a co-tour, and that was my first real tour.
Right on.
In like 2012.
And right on. How were you guys traveling? Where'd you go?
We
All
were
that.
just in my car. I think we were in my car, my Jetta
There you go.
at the time. Somebody had handed me down. We went east on I-40, went to the North Carolinas, like South Carolina, played Savannah, Georgia.
Were you guys playing like clubs or coffee shops? Yeah.
Mostly, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Those can be hit or miss.
yeah.
That
Yeah.
period. Like some of them are like really into like, we love heavy music here, and we'll take care of artists. You get free meal here, and then some of them are just like, there's a stick PA in the closet, you can set it up.
Right.
25% off certain entrees.
Yeah.
For you.
You're like, you can have a grilled cheese. Yeah. So, but I guess mostly what I remember about that is like becoming really good friends with John Davey, and like, because it was just the two of us, and I don't think I'd ever experienced that. Just hopping in the car with somebody, and like, for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then.
Yeah, you develop a whole system of inside jokes.
Yeah.
At that point, and you're also kind of sharing in a similar. It's not like you're just taking a random road trip. Like you're out there for the same reason,
Right.
as one another. You're following the same dream, so you have a
Yeah.
lot in common at that
Yeah.
time.
And I really loved his songwriting. Still do. I still sing his songs all the time. I think he lives in the UP now, in Michigan. But yeah, so that was like that was right after the EP came out. And then I met Andrew Combs around that time. He came to my EP release show, and it made me feel like $1 million because he was fresh on the scene already. Like him and Caitlin Rose and Steelism were playing together, and I don't know. I just was like, Andrew Combs is so cool, and he's at my house show, my EP release show.
Yeah, man. Well, and when you get encouragement from other artists like that, they're a little bit further down the line. It's just like, okay, well, maybe I am doing something here.
Yeah.
Erin spoke of moving on from different scenes, different bands, different friendships on the road. Of course, every life has its share of transience, but the creative life has more than most. Maybe it's the temperament of the people drawn to it. Maybe it's the nature of creative inspiration. Maybe it's the fact that it's so hard to turn a buck doing it that you end up moving on just to stay alive. That transience and growing apart from others has led to a specific kind of melancholy in my life, and that sadness is wonderfully represented in a piece of prose from Mary Ruffle from her book, My Private Property. Purple sadness is the sadness of classical music and eggplant, the stroke of midnight, human organs, ports cut off for part of every year. Words with too many meanings, incense, insomnia, and the crescent moon. It is the sadness of play money and icebergs seen from a canoe. It is possible to dance to purple sadness, though slowly as it takes to dig a pit to hold a sleeping giant. Purple sadness is pervasive and goes deeper into the interior than the world's greatest nickel deposits or any other sadness on earth. It is the sadness of depositories and heels echoing down a long corridor. It is the sound of your mother closing the door at night, leaving you alone. Well, so that's a little bit of a switch. So you kind of leave the Erin and the Meanwhiles thing in the past, and then you start touring and recording with two fellas from Philadelphia.
Yeah.
How did you meet those guys, and how have they influenced your sound and everything?
I met them through Andrew Combs. I met them first. They came and played a show, I think, with Toy Soldiers, or at least Dom did with Ron Gallo, at the basement. And but yeah, and then Andrew started playing with them, and I was like, "What's up, guys? Do you want to play with me too?" Yeah. And so yeah, we went on a week-long tour. Sorry, my tummy is growling. We went on a week-long tour right after Soon Enough came out, because the band that made Soon Enough with me, like Kevin and Graham, play. I think they still play for a guy named Thomas Rhett. He's like a country guy. Mm-hmm. So they were like had a full-time gig, and then Corey, Graham's wife, like had a job, and yeah. So we went on this week-long tour of the Northeast, like 5 shows, and then in November we went to the UK for a month, the 3 of us. And,
oh wow!
It was amazing. We had like the best time. Yeah.
And along that way, how are they influencing what you're listening to and stuff? Like, what kind of stuff are they turning you on to that's not just singer-songwriter type stuff?
We listen to a lot of Michael Now, Richard Hawley, Broadcast, records that Richard Swift made. That's like a big. Jerry is like a huge Richard Swift fan, and so I've gotten to learn a lot more about that world, and pardon, but yeah, I'm trying to think what else. Just so much music, and then that led me to get on like a kick of like English psych folk and like
Oh wow.
these like old recordings of like Kevin Ayers. Or Kevin Ayers maybe is not British. There's somebody that I always say is British because I found him at the same time.
When you were in England?
Yeah. and then yeah, but it turns out they're from like Connecticut or something.
I've never gone down the rabbit hole of like a psych folk thing. Like what are some hallmarks of that?
Maybe Kevin Ayers is, let's see. I have this list. Robert Lester Folsom is another one, but he's the one that's actually from America, I think.
Gotcha. But what are like the hallmarks of like the sound? Is my question.
The sound, I guess, is like, well, it just sounds. It's like recorded very like shittily, maybe. Like just tape stuff, and then like electric guitars and kind of jangly.
Mm-hmm.
There's a song called Magic in the Moonlight by the Magic Tramps that I'm thinking of in particular right now.
Wait, is this from like a certain time period? Was there like a time for this, or is this like a still going on thing?
I feel like it's definitely influences a lot of music that's still happening now.
Gotcha.
Yeah, let's see here. We got Kevin Ayers, Pete Dello and Friends, Duncan Brown. He's an Irish guy. Pete Dello and Friends is like, this is crazy. I don't think I've ever heard my stomach growl this much. He does this song called "Do I Still Figure in Your Life?" That's like one of my.
Do I still think
figure in your life?
Do I still figure in your life?
Do I still figure in your life?
Yeah,
it's like so cool. I don't know. Lots of flutes. There's flutes and stuff like that.
See, in my mind, when I hear the phrase psych folk, I do think of flutes.
Yeah.
I do think of like, or mellotron flutes.
Yeah.
Just heavily.
Yes, exactly.
Deep mellotron world.
Yes.
So you ended up going on to make a record with those two guys. That's now your most well-known record. How did you guys, where'd you record it, and what was that process like?
We got to make that record at this place called The Refuge that Corey Chisel and Adriel Dene run. It's a monastery, Franciscan monastery in Appleton, Wisconsin. And they kind of, Corey is from Appleton, and they kind of, it had some offices in it at that point, but wasn't being run as a monastery anymore. So there's like a huge chapel. It's like
Gotcha.
60 monks' quarters, 60 like bedrooms, like 30,000 square feet on the Fox River.
But not being used.
Not being used, really. There's like, I don't know. There's a few different weird offices that were meeting in there, but so they took it over and created the Refuge Foundation for the Arts, and that's where I think Traveler. I don't know if they recorded their record up there, but like.
So they built a studio out of this monastery.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's kind of just like a creative space. There's the chapel where there is some studio gear, and we brought Dan Nobler, engineered and co-produced with Jerry Bernhardt and then Don Billett, and so the four of us brought a bunch of Dan's analog, like a lot of analog gear and different things, and then his like Pro Tools setup and all that.
Yeah.
And we kind of like camped out there for a week, and and recorded up there. So.
And stayed there as well?
Stayed there as well. Yeah, we all had our own little rooms. It was actually, that was the coolest part, I think, is working, going to sleep, waking up at 9, meeting downstairs in the kitchen and having coffee.
Yeah.
And then like going up and starting to work.
That's really fun.
It's like very like not interrupted, like,
yeah.
I don't know.
I only made one record like that. It was in Lexington, Kentucky, where the whole band was staying at the studio as well. And to me, it felt like a real Firehouse vibe because it was like different people would take like a day to cook. It's like someone's day to cook. So you'd like wake up, start some food. The food's going while, you're recording, and then you have dinner together. It's a real esprit de corps type of vibe. I don't know. In retrospect, I don't know if it leads to better records or not. I think you could definitely. I've made other records where it's just people that I've never met before that I'm paying a bunch of money, come in for 4 hours and then leave, and it comes out really good.
Right.
But definitely the experience and my memory of that time is of staying at the studio with the guys. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We
there's a lot more time for inside jokes to develop when you're just staying at a giant weird monastery, like I don't know, for long hours, Get
really
pretty goofy. Or at least we did.
So what was that process like? What did you learn in that particular recording process, and how was it different than other ones that you had done?
Well, the previous record, I'd been playing shows of a set of songs that became Soon Enough for like a couple of years, with generally the same band, and we ended up recording it live. We recorded it all live in like 2 days, and sang everything at the same, sang everything.
Probably
played
have
with
like a
the band.
money concern, or
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how it goes.
Yeah, and also definitely money concern, but it was cool because I did want to just like capture how we'd been playing the songs.
Right, because you had been doing it on the road with everybody. Yeah, that makes sense.
And so we did it that way, and then so with this one, it was a similar thing where the songs had accumulated over time, and we'd been playing them on the road and stuff, and not all of them, but a handful of them, and then we did some demos. Me and Jerry did a few demos at his house, and he did a version of Putting on Airs, and like sent that to me, and then the four of us met up at Dan's studio in Nashville and did like a week of band demos and kind of sketched out some stuff before we went up.
Oh wow, that's a pretty involved process, like a 3-part process. Almost.
So.
But then tell me this, because that's interesting to me. Like, why didn't you just record right there when you were doing full band demos at his studio? Like, and how were those demos different than what you ended up getting?
Well, I think we were just kind of like experimenting with parts because we had limited time to be up. We had like 7 full days to be at the studio and at the Refuge, and so I think we just wanted to have like an idea of what we were gonna kind of lay down, and then some more things developed up there, of course.
Sure.
But yeah, I guess in like just utilizing the space and the vibes and everything of the chapel, and I sang a lot of the songs in there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and we like on Grand Scheme. I think Dom tracked like at Dan's house. Dom tracked a drum part similar maybe to what's on the record, but what we got to do is like set up a bunch of toms in the chapel with like wood floors, high ceilings.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So the reverb that you hear on those drums is like coming from that.
From the room itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was like maybe it's on Bad Mind. I think it's on Bad Mind. It's not a harp. Oh, auto harp.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry like spent like 2 hours tuning this auto harp we found in like a closet up there.
Spending 2 hours to play it for 2 minutes.
Yeah. Just to rake it.
Right.
And that was also like in the chapel, and I don't know. I think I also learned while it was happening from them about like, you know, just the musicianship and just how much goes into it. And it felt, and it, I don't know, hopefully I feel like over time my interest is growing and like understanding is growing of like that whole process. And I think I'll increasingly be more present for that part, for like developing the tracks, because it used to be that I would just kind of be intimidated by that process and just be like, whatever you guys want to do, and then just like wait wait and see.
It is nice to be in the studio with people who are in there all the time, because I think as songwriters and performers, like, well, we got to go hit the road and make money, and so, you know what I mean, and be out all the time. And so when you do, the few times that you do get into the studio to work and stuff, it's nice to be around people that do it a lot, because they're so, in my experience, they're so unconcerned. As they make, like, when I get in the studio, I'm like, all right, we got to get this exactly right, and they're like, no, man, like, don't worry about it. Do a take. That mic didn't work there. We'll just try this other one. Don't worry about it. It's going to be fine. And I like being surrounded by people like that. And in the same way that you were talking about, as I get older, I definitely am more interested in the recording side of it. And because, you know, songs can really just hinge on the way that one lyric sounds and feels, and that's what you come back to over and over and over again. And the recording part of it is a big, you know, is a big determining factor in whether you get that or not. You know?
I feel fortunate with these guys, especially like how they, and with the Meanwhile's crew too, is like how thoughtfully they all played music around my like very soft singing and, you know, guitar parts and stuff. I feel like a compliment I always hear them get is like, you guys play with such like restraint, or like tasteful restraint, and it's just really cool to have, you know, people that aren't like, I lucked into this. You know,
it's very easy to turn singer-songwriter music into like bar rock in a second. No, it just takes 2 seconds to turn it into like bar rock, and it gets really bad at that point. Because if you're going to do bar rock, there's a good way to do bar rock, and you know, just kind of transferring our precious little singer-songwriter gems into that is not the way to do it. You know?
Nobody wants that.
Well, it's good that you found that crew. What does your songwriting process look like? If you have a song set aside to write, do you set aside days to write?
I have started doing that recently. It used to be before I was only doing music. The pressure wasn't the same, you know, to like, oh, like not pressure in a bad way, just pressure in like a matter of fact way. Like, oh, okay, cool. Like now I do need to have some discipline and structure around this so that I can create continuously, because before it was just, like I said, very daydreamy. I was working restaurants, and, you know, like songwriting was like a nice place, another, how's a good way to say this? It was like another place for my brain to be, instead of just like I'm in a restaurant.
Right.
You know?
But the process at that time was more, it was like catch as catch can with songs, and gotcha.
Yeah. And like, you know, I'd be like, oh, I have a song idea. And then, you know, have a good cry and come up with a song. But now, I don't know. I got very intimidated for a while there. And
in what way?
I guess just that maybe just like too self-focused and aware, or like judgmental of the process, or, you know, afraid that I didn't have it anymore. Like, that was it. I wrote all the songs I could write, you know.
I know.
Yeah.
And I'll just say this because I've had it too. It's just the stupidest fucking thought.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I used to do it to myself a lot. I think I've gotten better at just being like, no, man, that's a stupid fucking thought.
Yeah. Yeah. I read something. I've been blabbing about this book to everyone, but it's called Daily Rituals. It's like Mason. I can't remember his last name, but there's two of them. There's one that's men and women, and there's a second book that's daily snapshots of like women artists, their lives, painters and writers, photographers. And Carole King is in this one, and she said, it's always going to be there. She's like, don't stress about it. It's always going to be there. That's And I was like, okay, she's right. I believe Carole King. But yeah, that book also really helped me kind of just be like, okay, cool. Like my friend's friend is parking their Airstream at our house, and so it's not being used. So I've just have kind of like made that my little writing zone, and I'll just go in there for a couple hours, like 1 to 3 or 1 to 4.
That's about the amount of useful time. I think after 3 hours tops, the diminishing returns start to really diminish at that point,
Yeah. I think that has been really useful to me. And also, I went to this healer, I call her. Her name's Sandy. And she kind of had me do this visualization of like, as a way to use my creativity to like connect with like a younger part of myself and like allow my younger self that loves just to play, like the playing aspect of creativity, to be part of that and like steer that for a little while and just like not be afraid and just like, I don't know. So in the writing zone, I have like some colored pencils, and I've started just like writing lyrics in a really like not like structured way, like not linear. I'll just like write them almost like drawing a picture,
Interesting.
I don't know, just to like be like, this doesn't have to like turn into a thing. Like we're just doing this. We're just like playing right now.
Yeah, this is not an actuarial table that I'm writing out here. Yeah.
Yeah. And like it would probably look insane to anyone that saw it, but maybe not. If it works, it works. But just kind of like being like, okay, cool, and kind of like trying to just be present with that feeling and not judge what's coming out.
Yeah, I think that's really important to separate the creation process from the editing process.
Yeah.
I think it's really critical, in fact. I fail at that all the time. But whenever I can push through, like if I'm having the feeling of like, I'm just going to quit on this. This is stupid. This is corny.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, just push through and finish it. No one has to see it.
Right.
Just finish it and you'll feel a lot better. And, 1 times out of 10, there was something there. And you're glad that you did push through.
Right.
So, it's interesting. There's kind of a through line there, though, that you're talking about now that you're starting to write in a more structured way. It sounds like the same kind of routine you had going on to a certain degree when you were at home living with mom and pops doing, voice lessons, guitar lessons, writing songs, doing the open mic every Thursday. That's, that seems to be a through line with you to a certain degree.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I also can have the habit of like distracting myself, kind of like, I don't know, just making there be like chaos in various ways, not like in the big and small form of that word, but like, just being like, oh, well, maybe I should, I should move now. I should move to a different house. Like I should move jobs, or I should quit, like always kind of there's something changing and going on. So I'm not like settled. And now I'm like just trying to be settled. And now that is happening, then that structure is like, that's like what I really needed.
Yes.
Just to just chill out.
Yes.
And like, and create some structure. Another thing that I've noticed in that book is like from, the last 200 years, like the artists would have like some structured creating time generally, whether they called it structured or not. And then they would also have time built into their day for like connection with people. Like they would receive visitors in the parlor, or they would like, or like go for a walk with their spouse, or like, and I think that's also been really nice for me to be like, yeah, dude, I'm not gonna like come up with shit in a vacuum of my own brain. Like I tried that for a while, like I would like to be, part of what is going to make me feel good and feel balanced.
Yeah. And being influenced by other people's ideas and testing those ideas against your ideas. And, sometimes your original ideas were right and sometimes they weren't. And that's, I think that's a big part of it too. Well, and you mentioned walking. I'm huge on, just the combination of having exercise, some sort of exercise in your life. I think it matches up with creative work. Big time. Cause you're happier, like the dopamine's running in you a little bit more, and, you have more of a chance of being joyful when you sit down with an instrument or something. Well, it's been very nice to meet you.
So good to...
A blast playing last night at Levon's place.
Your set was incredible.
Thank you.
You singing that Bobby Charles song with them.
That was really
fun. I had the full body chills. I videotaped the whole thing.
I'm going full crooner from now on.
Cool.
But yeah, thanks for sitting down with our show here
having me.
at the good old Howard Johnson.
Yeah.
Right on. That's our show for this month. Thank you for listening. This month's episode was brought to you by Bandzoogle. Built by musicians and for musicians, Bandzoogle is an all-in-one platform to build a beautiful website for your music. Use promo code TWS, the initials of our podcast, to get 15% off the first year of any subscription. Erin Rae's latest album is entitled Putting on Airs, available everywhere music is sold or streamed. A big thank you to the poet Steve Scafidi for recommending this month's poem. If before we meet again, you sit down to write, please remember, an expensive drug habit is not a song, a compelling Instagram account is not a song, and most importantly, reverb is not a song. So let all that take care of itself, and for you, just keep your eye on the song.